What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Fast Break Tundra Baller. It is another Saturday, May 1st. Well, the date I'm recording this is April 30th, so technically last month. But we are here with another episode. So, if this is your first time here, I am Mario Duenas. I am a Clippers super fan, and we are talking about anything about basketball right here on Fast Break Tundra Baller. I am a season ticket holder for the Clippers. Unfortunately, they are in the off season right now, or like what people like to say, they are in Cancun right now. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. But I'm telling you guys, next year, Clippers championship 2027, NBA championship, first ever championship. So they got this. But we have a lot of basketball to talk about today. Even the playoffs, especially the playoffs, high level basketball, very competitive, and we have some stuff to talk about, like the games that has happened throughout the week, from last Thursday to this Thursday. Where you're listening to this on a Saturday, if you are listening to this live, because I have to turn in my episodes in on a Thursday, so 2 days before this goes live on Time Radio. But this is my second semester here on Time Radio, so I've been pretty much been covering the whole season of NBA basketball and anything else basketball, and pretty much all of the other stuff that has happened like around basketball, especially the Clippers. I covered all of the games here, but we have some NBA basketball to talk about, some playoffs, and and a new concept of the NBA lottery. So last Tuesday, the NBA they released a new concept to the NBA draft lottery. So the regular draft lottery is pretty much where the worst teams they have the highest chance of winning the lottery. So the bottom three teams they would have the highest odds with 14% odds each of getting the first pick. So for like right now, the Wizards, the Pacers, and the Nets they each have a 14% chance of winning the lottery. And then number four, which is the Jazz, they have a 11% chance. The Sacramento Kings, also 11.5% chance. The Memphis Grizzlies, 8%. The Atlanta Hawks, but that is also the New Orleans Pelicans pick. They have a 6.8% chance, then 6.7 for the Dallas Mavericks. The Chicago Bulls, 4.5. Milwaukee Bucks, 3%. The Golden State Warriors, 2%. The LA Clippers, unfortunately, but it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder because of that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander trade when they traded for Paul George, 1.5%. The Miami Heat, 1%. And the Charlotte Hornets with 0.5% chance. So this will be the normal lottery for this year's draft. So it's going to be on June, but the lottery to find out where those 14 teams will stand, the top 14 picks, they will be held on May 10th. And I'm pretty sure that is Mother's Day. And it's on a Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And it will be at the McCormick Place Convention Center in Chicago. So that's where it will be. And pretty much the assistant commissioner will announce the picks. And, it could be anybody's game for the lottery. If you remember, the Dallas Mavericks, they had a 1.8% chance of winning the lottery. And they did last year. And, they got the first pick and they got Cooper Flag. So hopefully the Clippers they do not get the first pick, because that pick, wherever their pick in the lottery stands, that goes to Oklahoma City Thunder. And another thing, so the Pacers pick, that one is really important for the Clippers because they are going to get a top 6 pick. And if you guys remember, the Clippers at the trade deadline, they traded Visa Zubats to the Pacers for 2 first-round picks, Ben Matherin, and Isaiah Jackson. One pick is going to be in the future, but this other pick is very important because if that pick falls to or lands anywhere from picks 5 to 9, that pick goes to the Clippers. If it doesn't, so from 10 to 30 or 1 to 4, the Pacers keep it, and that pick will be a 2031 first round pick for the Clippers. So I don't want that pick to be waited until 2031. The Clippers, they need to improve. The Pacers finished with a second worst record in the league, so they're in the bottom 3, and they would have the highest odds of winning the lottery with 14% out of all the 14 teams, along with 2 other teams, which is the Wizards and the Nets. But the Pacers, they are guaranteed a top 6 pick. So, like I said, the pick needs to fall from 5 to 9 for the Clippers to have the Pacers pick. And this is the chances for the Clippers to have their pick. So it is most likely out of all the 6 picks that they're most likely going to have the 5th pick at 27.8, and number 6, 20.1. So they have a total of a 47.9% chance of that pick going to the Clippers. I like those odds. So they have a 14% chance of getting the first pick, 13.4% for the second, 12.7% for the third, and 12% for the fourth pick. And those odds are all the same for the Wizards and the Nets too, for picks 1 through 4. It's just different for the Wizards. They are guaranteed a top 5 pick, and the Nets are guaranteed a top 7 pick. And like for the Jazz, they're number 4, they're guaranteed a top 8, and the Kings top 9, and the Grizzlies top 10. So yeah, but here is the new NBA lottery concept. Well, this is not official yet. This is just a proposal for right now. On May 28th, all 30 of the NBA governors, they will vote on this, and if 23 or more of them say yes, this will pass, and this will take effect for the 2027 NBA draft, so next year. And they will keep going with this until 2029. So this is how it goes. So this is called a 3-2-1 lottery system. The 3-2-1, that shows how many lottery balls they have. So that represents how many lottery balls each team will have. They will either have 3, 2, or 1. So there will be 37 lottery balls distributed to 16 teams. So 37 lottery balls combined across 16 teams. So in the lottery, there are 14 teams. This lottery system will extend to 16. So the 14 teams that don't make it to the playoffs, plus the, or not necessarily all 16, but the 10 teams that don't make it to the playoffs, the 9th and 10th seed that finish in the regular season, and the loser of the 7 versus 8 seed game in the play-in tournament. So even if the 9, 10, and the 7th and 8th seeds, they make it to the playoffs, if they so even the 9th and 10th seed, they make it to the playoffs somehow for the play-in tournament, then they still have be in the lottery pretty much. And the 7th and 8th seed also, if they lose, that game in the play-in tournament and they move on to the playoffs, if they win the second game to the winner of the 9th and 10th seed, then they'll still get a lottery ball. So the bottom 3 teams, this is called the relegation zone, and they are pretty much they get 2 lottery balls each. All 3 of those teams. The other 7 teams that don't make it to the postseason, like the play-in tournament, they will get 3 lottery balls each. So the 4 through 10 worst teams, like in the worst team rankings, from 4 to 10, they get the highest odds of winning the lottery with 3 lottery balls each. So not the 3 worst teams. This is pretty much a punishment, you know, to make teams want to win. We had the NBA. They have some taking problems. They find the Pacers. They find the Pacers a big amount of money, and they find the Jazz a big amount of money for tanking, and it became a huge problem. And Adam Silver and the league, they wanted to fix that. So the bottom 3 teams, like I said, they are called a relegation zone. So they get 2 lottery balls each. The other 7 teams that don't make it to the postseason, so from 4 to 10, they get 3 lottery balls each, with the highest odds of winning the lottery. And then the 4 teams that finish in the ninth and 10th seed, so with 2 from each conference, the ninth and 10th seed that finish in their conference, they will get 2 lottery balls each. So they will have the same odds like the 3 worst teams in the league. And then the loser of the 7th and 8th seed team in the play-in tournament, they will get 1 lottery ball. The thing is, though, for the teams that are the bottom 3 of the league, so there are 16 lottery teams, right? If this goes through. But the bottom 3 teams, they will have a top 12 pick, and the rest of those teams, they will be pretty much from 1 to 16 possibly. So there are also some special rules to these two. A team can't win the first pick pretty much back to back. They can't win it in consecutive years. And a team can't earn a top 5 pick in three years in a row. And pretty much another rule is that a team cannot protect a pick that is picks 12 to 15. And also, the commissioner, which is Adam Silver, he could pretty much adjust anything at any time. He'll have more authority of pretty much adjusting things if things necessary. Like he could change the odds or punish teams for tanking, stuff like that. Pretty much the NBA, they want to prevent any tanking from happening. Adam Silver said this about it: I do think ultimately this is a decision that needs to be made at the ownership level. It has business implications, has basketball implications, has integrity implications in the league. So it's one that we take very seriously, and we're going to fix it. Full stop. So now we're going to be talking about some more NBA awards. We talked about last week's awards from last Thursday, and now we're going to be talking about, or 2 Thursdays ago, whenever you're listening to this live on Saturday, May 1st. But we're going to be talking about the awards that was given to the league ever since the last time I recorded. So let's get started about that. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is the most improved player, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So the NBA, they have 100 voters, and they would either vote first, second, or third on different players. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he got 66 of the 100 first place votes, and then he had 19 second place and 9 third place. So 396 total points for voting. So first place they get 5, second place 3, first place 1. Second place was Jalen Duren from the Pistons with 254, and Denny Avdia with 7. Avdia, he had a really good year this year, and there were some other players that were considered with most improved. Victor Wembanyama, he had 1 third place vote. Amen Thompson from Rockets, 1 third place vote. And some other players that were considered were Jamal Murray, Stephon Castle, Najee Marshall, Jane McDaniels, Colin Gillespie, Reed Shepard, Jalen Johnson, Ryan Hollins, and Neemias Queta. Neemias Queta, he also had a really good year too for the Celtics. I'm not gonna lie, it was a really good year for him. The next award that we're going to be talking about is the Rookie of the Year award. So there was pretty much some high debate of who was going to win the Rookie of the Year award. Should it be Cooper Flagg or should it be Colin Kneppel? But after the voting, it was announced that Cooper Flagg, he won the Rookie of the Year award. He had 56 of the first place votes of a 100. And Colin Kneppel, he had the rest of the votes with 44. And then VJ Edgecombe, he had 93 third place votes. So yeah, and that was the top three, the three finalists: Cooper Flagg, Colin Kneppel, and VJ Edgecombe. And there were two other rookies that were considered, or pretty much in the voting. They all had third place votes, third place votes from Dylan Harper from the Spurs and Cedric Howard from the Grizzlies. The next award that we're going to be talking about is the Basketball Executive of the Year. The winner of that is Brad Stevens from the Boston Celtics. He had 11 first place votes. And there were other ones that were considered too. Ansi Saleh from the Hawks and Trahan Langdon from the Pistons. And he had 6 first place votes in the and Ansi Saleh from the Hawks. He had 1 first place vote, but he was second because he had 10 second place and 6 third place. So he only beat Trahan Langdon by 1 point. And then some other executives that were considered too was Rob Pelinka from the Lakers, Zach Klayman from the Grizzlies, Josh Kroenke from the Nuggets, Kobe Altman from the Cavaliers, Brian Gregory from the Suns, Rafael Stone from the Rockets, Brian Wright from the Spurs, Sam Presti from the Thunder, and Jeff Pearson from the Hornets. The last award that we're going to be talking about today is Lob City himself, part of Lob City, from the Pelicans, DeAndre Jordan. He won the Twyman Stokes Teammate of the Year. So this was presented every year since 2013, and it recognized the league's best teammate based on selfless play, leadership, and commitment to the team. So now we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs. So we are going to be talking about pretty much everything that happened from 2 Thursdays ago to last Thursday, so 2 days before I am recording this. So, or 2 days before you are listening to this live, and then, yeah. So everything as of going into the April 30th games. So I'm recording this at 10:13 a.m. right now. So we're going to be talking about everything that has happened until the time that I'm recording this. And then we will carry on this next week. Unfortunately, next week is the last episode on Time Radio, but I am planning on continuing Fast Breakers 100 Baller pretty much during the summer. That is to be determined, but I'm going to find my ways to do it. So, there are already two series are already done as of the time of recording this. So let's get started with the first one. It ended in a sweep. The Oklahoma City Thunder brought the brooms against the Phoenix Suns. So we're going to be talking about the last 2 games. So both of these games, they're in Phoenix, games 3 and 4. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he dropped 42 points to help the Suns, or help the Thunder win 121 to 109. They pretty much had the lead the entire time during the game, and they were up by 9 at halftime, and then they just brought it up from there, and then they won by 12. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like I said, he dropped 42 points. He only missed 3 shots and 1 free throw. He went 15 for 18 from the field, 11 for 12. He's just going insane in the playoffs. He's averaging 33.8 points per game in the series so far, shooting 55% from the field. That is just insane. And shooting 89% from the free throw line, only missing 5 of 49 free throw attempts. And then to help pretty much it was just him. He scored pretty much 1/3 of the points. The closest to him in scoring for the Thunder was AJ Mitchell with 15, and then Chet Holmgren with 10, and Alex Caruso with 13. So yeah, and they shot almost half of their shots. They shot 49.5%, and then for the Suns, Devin Booker, he had 16 points, but Dylan Brooks, he had a game with 33 points. Devin Booker, he went 6 for 16 from the field, and Jalen Green had a game for him too. 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. And then for the last game, they lost by 9 points. They were in it. You know, they were. But it was not enough, and they lost by 9 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander again with 31 points. Chet Holmgren with 24. AJ Mitchell with 22. And then Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso with double digits. Caruso had 14. Wallace had 10. And yeah, they were just shooting high from the field this time. But both teams, they shot 53%, just a .4 difference between their percentage. And the Thunder, they hit 17 of their 34 threes, so they made half of them. And then the Suns, they shot 35% from the 3-point line. They made 14 threes, so they almost as much. But they had four of the 5 Suns starters scored 20 plus. So Dylan Brooks with 23, 10 for 19. Colin Gillespie with 20. He made 6 threes out of 11 shots. Devin Booker, he made half of his 16 shots. He scored 24. And Jalen Green, 40% of the field, 23 points on 10 for 25 shooting, but he was 1 for 10 from 3. And then off the bench, you had Royce O'Neal, 8 points to 7 rebounds. Grayson Allen, 12 points. So the Suns, they pretty much got swept. They didn't win any games. But Devin Booker, compared to the regular season in stats, he averaged 21 points in the playoffs in those 4 games. But in the regular season, he averaged 26 points. But the Thunder, they're one of the best defending teams in the NBA right now. So a group of a lot of young guys for the Thunder. So things are really looking good for them. And if they keep playing like this, they're gonna play either the Lakers or the Rockets next. Imagine if the Rockets they play against the Thunder. I was thinking about it yesterday. Like, what if the Rockets they play against OKC? And you know who's on the Rockets right now? Kevin Durant. And I was thinking, did Kevin Durant ever play the Thunder in the playoffs after he left? And I don't think it ever happened. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it ever happened. And I was thinking of this one YouTuber, Lost and Unbound. He posted a lot of videos back in the day, and he is pretty much known for being a huge OKC fan. And when KD left the Thunder to join the Warriors, he was pretty much mad about it and went viral for ripping his KD jersey. And he dropped a diss track on him. So imagine if it happens. That would be a series I would want to see. But going back to the Thunder and Sun series, I think the best player overall from this series for the Suns, it has to be Dylan Brooks. Like, he was really going at it, and he made 14 threes in 4 games, so he made about 3 a game. And he scored 26 points a game, including 30 points from game 2 and 33 from game 3. It was just a really good series for him overall, in my opinion. And it was just a really good series for him. And Jalen Green, he averaged 21 points in the postseason in those 4 games. It was he had some lows, during the regular season. He had a hamstring injury to start off. He got traded in the Kevin Durant trade. Kevin Durant, he was on the Suns last year when they had that big duo, Bradley Beal, who is now on the Clippers, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. But Jalen Green, he's been doing better as the season progressed. He had that hamstring injury to start off, and then he played some games, and then he injured that the hamstring once again, and then he was out for a while. In his second game back, a matter of fact, he injured a hamstring. I remember it was against the Clippers. You know, that was the second game back on the the Clippers and Suns second matchup, and then Jalen Green. It was around the first and second quarter, the first half at least, and he re-injured a hamstring, and he was out for a long time again. But he had a good series overall too, in my opinion. But he shot 38% from the field. But let's talk about OKC for a second. They have been doing really good. They averaged only 105 opponents' points per game, so they only allowed 105 points, while averaging 122 points a game themselves and shooting 48% from the field, which is pretty insane. So they have been so it's a really good series for OKC, and they'll play the winner of the Lakers and Rockets series. The next series that we're going to be talking about is the San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trail Blazers. So the Blazers, they lost in 5 games. So last week we talked about the first 2 games, so we're going to be talking about games 3 through 5. In game 2, Victor Wembanyama, he went out early with a concussion and he didn't return. Game 3, he did not play. But the Spurs, they won by 12 without Wemby. They had a really good game. They won by 12, and they outscored the Blazers by 11 points in the final quarter here. So they really took it up. They were even down at one point. They were down by 15. The Spurs, the Blazers, they were up by 15, 82-67, with 5:09 left in the third quarter. But then they brought it down to 7. The Spurs with 3:10 left, and then 6. And then at the end of the third quarter, they were up by 1 point. They brought the lead. They brought the lead. So it was 78-85 with less than 2 minutes left to go in the second quarter or third quarter, sorry. And then they finished on a 10-2 run. It became 88-87. They took the lead with 12 seconds left when De'Aaron Fox he made a shot, and there we go. And then the fourth quarter they took the lead again, the Blazers, but then they took the lead with 8 minutes to go, and they didn't look back. They won by 12, and there we go. They won by 12 without Wemby. It was a pretty good game for the Spurs. They comeback win. Stephon Castle, he had 33 points, 10 for 18 shooting. Dylan Harper off the bench, the rookie, 27 points. And then on the other side, Denny Avdia, he had an off game. He had 3 for 15 shooting, 19 points though, but 12 of those points were from the free throw line. And Drew Holiday, 12 for 18 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3. He had 29 points. Scoot Henderson, he had 5 threes to go in. So pretty big performances from their best players. And then in game 4, the Spurs, they took care of business. They won by 21 points. They only allowed 35 points in the second half. And the Blazers, they really struggled in the second half. They were down by a lot again. They were down by 17 at halftime, the Spurs. But they came back and won and outscored the Blazers by almost 40 points. They outscored him 73 to 35, so by 38 points. It was really crazy. They blew two big leads in two straight games. And Victor Wembanyama, he came back from the concussion, and he had 27 points, 11 rebounds, 7 blocks. So all around numbers with the blocks. De'Aaron Fox, he had 28 points. Then for Blazers, there was only 3 players that scored in double figures. That was Denny Avdia. His shooting was better this time, 8 for 14 with 26 points. Drew Holiday, 20 points, and Jeremy Grant with 17. But yeah, the Spurs, they almost had half of their shots to go in. They shot 49%. The Blazers 40%. And then in the last game, game 5, they won by 19, so they took care of business again. And the Blazers, this was a low game for them. They shot 35%, and the Spurs, they shot 54%. The Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, 17 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 blocks, which is really insane. And then Julian Champagnie with 19, De'Aaron Fox with 21 points. This was a really insane, for Victor Wembanyama because he averaged 4 blocks in the 4 games that he played. He didn't play in one of them. But the Spurs, they won, and they only allowed 100 points. The defense is crazy. They are one of the best defensive teams. They are really young. They have Wemby, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox. He is still somewhat young. He's 28 years old. And Wemby, he's 22. Castle, 21. Vassell, 25. Dylan Harper, 20. It's just a really, really good series for him. But let's give credit to the Portland Trailblazers. From the stuff that happened at the beginning of the year with all the drama that happened with the gambling stuff, their head coach, he got arrested for the gambling problem that they had with Terry Rozier also, and then their head coach or assistant coach Thiago Splitter, he had to take over and led them to the 8th seed in the Western Conference, but they got the 7th seed through the play-in tournament, and they finished with a winning record 42-20. A really good team. Now we'll talk about the other 2 ongoing series in the Western Conference. We will talk about the Nuggets and the Timberwolves first. So we're going to be talking about games 3 through 5 here. So in game 3 here, they took the 2-1 game lead, the Timberwolves. They won 113-96. They won by 17 points. It was a really big game. Jay McDaniels, he had 20 points and 10 rebounds. Anthony Edwards, 17. He only played 23 minutes in this game. Dante DiVincenzo, 15. It was a blowout. They were up 20 after 3 quarters. The Nuggets, they only scored 11 points in the first quarter. They were outscored 11-25. But they did finish the first half with 39. They scored 39 points in the first half, and they scored 28 points in the second quarter. And moving on to game 4, this game was this could have really turned the series around, but the Timberwolves, they didn't let that happen, and they pretty much turned it around for the better. So Anthony Edwards, he got hurt. He pretty much bent his knee backwards, hyperextended it, and he's going to be out for extended amount of time, at least a few weeks. And at the beginning of the game, Dante DiVincenzo, he tore his Achilles, so he is definitely out for the rest of the postseason, and potentially, who knows, maybe the entire next season. Who knows? But we will see how it goes because Jason Tatum, he got hurt around this time, almost a year ago, to almost a whole year of this happening. Jason Tatum, he tore his Achilles and he came back later on in the regular season of this year. So there's potential that he would come back. But, like in the playoffs, Damian Lillard, he also tore his Achilles in the playoffs last year, and he's not playing this year. And Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7 of the finals, he tore his Achilles, and he was out for the rest of the season. So, yeah, but both of those, it happened during the game. But they still won and took a 3-1 lead, and they won by 16. 112-96. So they held them to under 100 points once again in back-to-back games. But the guy who really helped the Timberwolves win was Ayo Dosunmu. He had 43 points, made all 5 of his threes, all 12 of his free throws, and made 13 of 17 of his shots. Pretty insane. Then moving on to Game 5, the Nuggets, they're facing elimination now. And Nikola Jokic, he had a big triple-double to help the team win and bring the series 3-2 to force a Game 6, 27 points, 12 rebounds, 16 assists, and they won by 12, 125-113. So they definitely scored a lot more than 100 this time. And then without Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo for a whole game now, Ayo Dosunmu, he had 18 points. Julius Randle, he had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. So that is what's going on right now. And if you're listening to this right now live on Saturday, April 1st, or sorry, April 2nd. Yeah, it's April 2nd. Then Game 7 and 6 would already be happening if there is a Game 7. So we will be talking about whatever happens with this series is already going to be over with this last episode next week. So let's go on to the last series in the Western Conference. That is the Lakers and the Rockets. So the Lakers, they took a 3-0 lead. They won in overtime 2 Fridays ago. And they won 112-108. LeBron James had 29 points. This is without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves as of right now. And yeah, this was in overtime. Kevin Durant, he is out for this game. And then Game 4, so, a 3-0 lead, that win after Game 3. So the Rockets, they need to win 4 straight games if they want to win this thing. So they did win Game 4 for Rockets to avoid that sweep. Kevin Durant, once again, he did not play. They won by 19 points though, 115-96. They held the Lakers to under 100 points. They held LeBron to 10 points. He only shot 9 shots from the field, made all of his 6 of his free throws though. Amen Thompson, 10 for 16 from the field, 23 points. So this was a really good game for Rockets. All 5 of the starters in double figures. And then in Game 5, it was a really close game. It was an insane ending. I was watching the 4th quarter. It was a really good game. And the Rockets, they avoid elimination once again and bring the lead 3-2. Or the series, so 3-2. And forcing a Game 6 after being down 3-0 in this series. The Rockets, they had a good game. All 5 of their starters, they scored double-digit points once again. And they were knocking down their threes, though. They made 14 of their threes and pretty much double the amount the Lakers had. They had 7 threes. So that is what the series is going on right now. And Austin Reeves, he did return in this game. So, and he did come off the bench. So we'll see how this goes from here on out. Now we'll be moving on to the Eastern Conference playoffs. So we're going to be talking about the Knicks and the Hawks first. So in Game 3, the Hawks, they won by 1 point. So which is crazy because the game 2 and 3, they both won by one. They won both games by 1 point, 109 to 108 and 107 to 106. So that's kind of crazy. The four numbers straight, right? Like 106 and 7 and 8 and 9. It's pretty crazy. And CJ McCollum, he had a good game, 8 for 19 shooting, 23 points. And Jalen Johnson, the fourth year from Duke, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, all around numbers. And Jalen Brunson, he had 26 points. Karl-Anthony Towns, big double-double, 21 points, 17 assists. OG Anunoby, 29 points, 9 assists. And Miles McBride off the bench, he made 5 threes out of 10 shots. The Knicks came back, though, in the next two games. They won by blowouts by 16 and 29. They won Game 4, 114 and 98. Karl-Anthony Towns, he had a triple-double, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Jalen Brunson, he had 19. And they held the Hawks under 100 points. They held them to 41% from the field and 24% from three. They made only 10 of their 41 shots. CJ McCollum, he missed all 4 of his threes. And then in Game 5, they lost by 29 points. Karl-Anthony Towns, another big double-double, 16 points, 14 rebounds. Jalen Brunson, he made 15 of his 23 shots, and he had 39 points. OG Anunoby, 17 points, 10 rebounds. So as of right now, at the time of recording this, the Knicks, they have a 3-2 lead, and they are playing the day I'm recording this, April 30th. So let's see if the Knicks, they will advance to the conference semifinals. The next series that we're going to be talking about now is the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. So right now, we're going to be talking about the games 3 to 5 again. So in game 2, they won by blowout in game 1, the Celtics, and then they lost by kind of a blowout in game 2. But the Celtics, they bounced back after losing by 14 in game 2, and they won by 8, 108 to 100. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they had 25 points each. And at this time, though, Joel Embiid, he is not back. But Tyrese Maxey, he had 31 points. He went off in this game. But he shot a lot of shots, though. 12 for 31 from the field, 5 for 13 from 3. Then moving on to game 4, the 76ers. Joel Embiid, he came back, but they lost in a blowout fashion. They lost by 32 points. Joel Embiid, he had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists in 34 minutes, and 9 for 21 shooting, though, which is pretty good. But it wasn't enough. They lost by 32 points. And Jason Tatum, he had 30. He's been playing really good despite having that Achilles tear last year. That recovery is just insane. Jaylen Brown, 20 points. And it was a really good game for the Celtics overall. But in game 5, though, the Sixers, they came back after losing by 32 points. They won by 16 to bring the series 3-2, force a game 6 to keep their season alive. Joel Embiid, he had 33 points, and it was a really good game for him. Tyrese Maxey with 25 points and grabbed 10 boards. There we go from Tyrese Maxey, that hustle. And then Jaylen Brown, he had 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jason Tatum, 24 points and 16 rebounds. So the series is 3-2, just like the Hawks series. And a matter of fact, all of these Eastern Conference series, they're all having a game 6. Both series are 3-2 going to game 6. Well, of course, yeah. yeah, game 6, it would have to be 3-2 because it's a best of 7. But 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 here is the next interesting one. So the Pistons and the Orlando Magic. The Pistons, they were down 3-1 as a first seed, which is kind of insane. The Magic, they played really good though. They played a lot of pressure defense in game 3. The Magic won by 8 points, 113 to 105. They just been playing a lot of pressure defense. Cade Cunningham, he had 27 points though with 9 assists and 5 rebounds. It was a good game for him, but it wasn't enough to win the game. And Wendell Carter Jr., a big double-double with 14 points, 17 rebounds. Paulo Banchero, 1 assist short of a triple-double, 25 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. And then in Game 5, it was a low-scoring game. Both teams were held to under 100 points. But the Magic took a 3-1 lead in Game 4, and they won by 6, 94 to 88. Cade Cunningham, he had 25 of the 88 points for the Pistons, and Tobias Harris 20 points, so 45 of the 88 points. More than half of those points came from Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris, and those are the only 2 guys on the Pistons to have double-digit points. And then 4 double-digit points for the Magic from Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Wendell Carter Jr. and Desmond Bane. And the thing is too, Franz Wagner, he is out with an injury, and his status is uncertain. He is unlikely to play, and he has a calf strain. So who knows how long he's going to be out. In Game 5, he did not play in this game, and the Pistons, they won by 7 points to keep their season alive. Cade Cunningham and Paulo Banchero, they had 45 points each. So both of those guys were really going at it. And the last series that we're going to be talking about are the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors. So in Game 3, the Raptors won by 22 points. It was a really good game for them. Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett, they both had 33 points. Scotty Barnes also had 11 assists. So it was a really good game. And then off the bench, Colin Murray-Boyles, he had 22 points on 11 for 15 shooting. And no threes, no free throws. So he had 22 points in 28 minutes. So a good game for him too, along with RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes. And then in Game 4, it was a low-scoring game. And then the Raptors, they won. So they evened the series 2-2. And it was a low-scoring game, 93 to 89. Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, they scored the same amount of points with 23. And then RJ Barrett had 18. And Colin Murray-Boyles off the bench, 15 points, 10 assists. And then for the Cavaliers, 39 of the 89 points were from Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. James Harden had 19, and Donovan Mitchell, he had 20 points. He shot 6 for 24 from the field, so he made a quarter of his shots, and he was 4 for 12 from 3. James Harden, he was 6 for 14. Then in Game 5, the Raptors, they lost, and the Cavaliers, they kept their season alive, and it was a really good quarter for them. They outscored them by 8 points. They outscored the Raptors by 8. They were down by 3 at the end of the third quarter, and they outscored them by 8 in the fourth quarter to win by 5, 125 to 120. For the Raptors, before we talk about the Cavaliers, Scotty Barnes, he had an all-around game, and he had 17 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists. Brandon Ingram, though, he did not. He only played 11 minutes, and he got hurt and didn't return. And according to TSN, he had right heel inflammation, and he left the game early. So he finished that game in 11 minutes, 1 point, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 0 for 2 from the field, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. RJ Barrett, he led the Raptors in scoring
with 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists. Then James Harden and Evan Mobley had 23 points each. James Harden was 7 for 13 from the field. Donovan Mitchell, 19 points, 7 for 17 from the field. So that was kind of crazy at the time of recording this. All of the 4 Eastern Conference matchups, they're all going to be decided by 6 or 7 games. No pun intended with the 6-7 joke. But yeah, so what are your guys' thoughts about this? Let me know. You can always hit me up on my social medias, Tundra_baller_0. I also make content on TikTok, so you guys should definitely check it out. And yeah, guys, there will be one more episode. So let me know, guys, what you guys want to see. And yeah, we will have a special guest for our last episode too, and we will be talking about pretty much the playoffs for a whole episode and anything else that we have in mind. So I'll see you guys for the last time for this school year next week.